Hey everybody, Chris Eggleston here. So real quick today, just was gonna do share some thoughts on something I was thinking a lot about yesterday. Gutenberg, WordPress, kind of where it's at, where it's going, what my thoughts are. Straight up, when Gutenberg first started coming out, like I was not pleased, not happy, excited when they said there was going to be the classic editor plugin that you can enable to eliminate Gutenberg. But I haven't been a page builder fan, right? Like the divvies, the Avadas, like I just haven't been a fan of these page builders. However, the end of last year, I started playing with Elementor because we have several clients at WP Mantis. Some of the sites that we support, they use Elementor. So I've been playing with it just so I can understand it, know how it works. But I like it. And it's actually probably the only page builder I've ever been able to say that about. But anyway, Gutenberg, I played with it a lot in the beginning, which is probably the problem, right? While it's still in development and undergoing development, undergoing all the negative press and feedback because it was horrible. And then again, in the beginning, you couldn't find many themes that were already optimized for it, and so I'd have to go in and optimize the theme for it, or prep the theme for it, so the theme could support Gutenberg. And it just wasn't something that I was super thrilled about. I didn't like it. I liked the classic editor. I like just being able to freely write and not having to do everything in blocks essentially. So anyway, I knew it was coming in 5.0. And I was, whatever, that's fine because we have the classic editor plugin. I'll just activate that everywhere. However, I realized that that's not something that you're going to be able to do forever because this is the direction that WordPress is going. And from my perspective, the number one reason WordPress is going this direction with making it easier to edit your pages or to make your pages look pretty, or to be able to more customize your pages, is because they need to be more competitive in the marketplace. Okay, you've got builders like Squarespace, Wix, there's others I can't even think of anymore. Web.com I think has a builder. There's lots of these builders out there that are more advanced in the drag and drop functionality. Heck, GoDaddy even has one. I wouldn't put it in the same plane as WordPress, but they have one. A website builder. So there's all these different options that are easier to use than WordPress for the average or the beginner user, that have the drag and drop or the block mentality built into it. And so WordPress needed to become more competitive for people who didn't want to spend the money on a page builder, or who don't want to use a page builder and want to be more native with WordPress, or don't. Again, these, most of them I would imagine are beginner users or unexperienced users, and they know WordPress. They don't know about all these other options out there. So the direction they're going is good for business as far as WordPress is concerned. It's going to give them a more competitive advantage. It's going to make it easier for people to adopt WordPress and actually get started with WordPress. It'll create a whole new avenue of revenue for WordPress entrepreneurs, for people who are building WordPress businesses, because now you've got people that can do exactly what they did in the page builder world, where they went out and created these page builder tools with themes and plugins like Divi and Elementor. They can now create premium plugins or add-ons and themes that support Gutenberg, right? The default built-in page editor. So it's going to open up, and it's already started, obviously. Like when Gutenberg came out, their company started launching free plugins where you can add additional blocks, and they were providing themes that were already supporting Gutenberg when it was, a plugin that you had to activate if you wanted to use it. Now that's in core, obviously there's going to be people looking for ways to take advantage of what's available in WordPress core, and so it's going to open up a whole new avenue for a whole new type of business in the WordPress entrepreneur world. So that's awesome, right? I heard somebody say recently, what's good for WordPress is good for my business, which is true, because here's the thing. If you're not a page builder person, do you avoid, I guess this is the question I'm asking myself. Like, if you're not a page builder person, if you don't use page builders, if you're like me and you just build custom themes and you build them out and you turn them over to your customers, that's how I always did it. When you turn those over, the idea with WordPress is you turn it over and your customers can take advantage of that and they can start maintaining it themselves. And that's great. However, until Gutenberg, or if you're using a page builder, but if you weren't, until Gutenberg, editing the page may or may not have been easy depending on how you develop that page or that layout. I'm a Genesis framework guy. That's all that we use is Genesis framework whenever we build our own sites or if we do anything for a client. Some clients that come on board with us, we convert them to Genesis from something else, or if they're coming from a standard site and they want to go to WordPress, we convert them onto the Genesis framework. And that framework had a lot of built-in functionality like columns, which required a div tag. You'd have to use a div tag in order to activate the column, so your average user isn't going to understand that or know it. And when you're using the normal editor, when you're using the not the text editor, but the visual editor in WordPress, you don't see the columns. So you don't know when you're in one column or when you're not, because you can only see it when you switch over to the text mode and see the actual div tags. So that was useful for a developer, but not so much as a standard user. Somebody I would turn the site over, the website owner, to manage that themselves. So we're looking at this new direction where more people are going to have more control and better ability to manage their own WordPress website and to customize it. But I believe it opens a whole new avenue too for us, those WordPress entrepreneurs. And I think going forward, it's not something that we should avoid. I was in that boat where I was just like, I'm not doing Gutenberg. I'm not going to deal with it. But with WP Mantis being a support provider, there are going to be instances in where we're going to be supporting websites and they're going to be using Gutenberg. So I've got to get on board. Our team has to get on board, and we have to make sure we understand how this works and that we're actually using it or able to use it so that we can support it. So with that, I actually started playing with it this week or last week, end of last week. I spent some time playing with it, just spun up a development site real quick and started playing with it. The nice thing about the Genesis framework is it's already supporting Gutenberg. So before Gutenberg came out, they went through and optimized the majority of their themes. Their most popular themes anyway, they converted so that they would support Gutenberg. So the framework supports it, and their most popular child themes, they have a sample child theme that you can download and use. So that's what I've been playing with Gutenberg. And to be honest, I'm pleasantly surprised. It's probably been 6 months, maybe 8 months since I've played with Gutenberg, maybe longer. The first couple of times, and so I'm pleasantly surprised at how well it works and how well they've done with it. Obviously it's not perfect and it's still in development or it's still in expansion, right? They'll probably add more blocks and expand it as time goes on, but they're also going to depend on the WordPress entrepreneurs out there who are building these plugins to extend it and to add to it. And so I'm pleasantly surprised with it. Again, I think that it's okay maybe to not move into it right away or, to slowly evolve into it. But you're not going to be able to leave that classic editor plugin active all the time. And again, if you want to provide a better experience for your customers you're building websites for, then you should probably get involved with Gutenberg. Now, if you're using Divi or Elementor or one of these page builders, you don't necessarily need to worry about Gutenberg because those builder plugins are going to override the Gutenberg functionality, obviously, and that's how it would be edited. But if you're in the boat that I am and you're not a super big fan of these builders, A, because they're bulky and require a lot of resources, B, they're not as easy they're not as easy to use either. Somebody who's been building with the Divi, you may find it pretty easy and convenient and what's the word? Logical to use, but somebody who's never seen it, when they open up that page editor and they've got all these different blocks everywhere, it's not going to be so convenient for them. Whereas with Gutenberg, when they open up the editor and they can see all their content broken out into blocks, it's going to be easier for them just to click and edit. So they've done a pretty good job of that. Again, it's just simplifying it for the end user. And so, if you've been hardcore on one of these page builders, again, there's no reason to change that or to necessarily stop that. But at least have a good understanding of what Gutenberg is, what it provides, and if it makes sense for you, and if it makes sense for your business, and if it makes sense for your customers, right? If your customers aren't doing any of the updates, right? If you're a white label support member partner with WP Mantis, then that's stuff that we're doing for your customers, right? Then you're providing support for them, and we're doing that for them. But if you're not, and you just build a site and turn it over to them, A, you may want to consider somebody like WP Mantis as a partner, but B, you also may want to consider, how do you simplify this and make it easier for your customers? And so, bottom line, this was just for me to kind of spill some of my initial thoughts on this. Again, I was totally against Gutenberg, and I was just determined that I was going to activate that classic editor plugin on every site and just leave it and forget it. But the more I think about it, and the more I'm reading about it and listening to others' discussions on it, I'm realizing that I can't avoid it forever. And at some point, it's going to become a big part of WordPress in the future. And so more and more people are going to be adapting it, and it's going to become more of a standard, something we see more regularly. And again, providing WordPress support, as a company providing WordPress support, we've got to be on top of everything. So I would just encourage you, again, there's no commitment here. Spin up a dev site, spend some time playing with Gutenberg, see if you like it. You might decide you like it better than whatever page builder you're currently using. You never know. And go do a Google search, find those Gutenberg plugin extensions and themes, and play with them, and just so that you have a good, solid understanding. I used to believe that everything that I did with my WordPress development stuff was the only way to do it. For example, I used to believe that WordPress was the only way to build a website, or the only platform to use was the Genesis framework, or the only plugins to use were these plugins, or the only commerce plugin to use was this plugin. But that's not necessarily the case. Right? Sometimes you really have to evaluate the customer's need, what their goals are, what their expectations are, and how the best way you can help them accomplish those things. And then the future of their site. Are they going to be maintaining it themselves and making all their own edits? So how do you simplify that? How do you make it easier for them? How is it more convenient for them? And so, now you'll find me using things today that aren't WordPress, things like Shopify. Things like ClickFunnels, right? These third-party platforms that sometimes they just make more sense for the client to be using those platforms than to be spending the money it would cost to build something out similar in WordPress. It just comes down to that situation. And so as WordPress evolves, we've got to evolve with it. Bottom line, again, play with Gutenberg. Don't just back shelf it. Don't just ignore it and think it's going to go away. Don't think that you're ever going to have to be on board with it. Just at least get a good, firm understanding of it. See how you like it, so that you have a good knowledge of it. I'm going to do more on Gutenberg as I go through it and as I start to adapt to it, and just share some more thoughts. But again, as a WordPress professional, as a WordPress entrepreneur, as a developer, as a consultant, as a marketer, whatever it is, spend some time stepping outside of your box of what you normally do, whatever page builder you use, or if you're straight coder and you build your own custom themes. Step outside of that for a bit and just make sure you're looking at Gutenberg as a solid option, as an alternative for you and for your customers, more importantly. All right, so I think it's a good thing. Again, like somebody said, what's good for WordPress is good for me and my business. So we're moving forward with that. and hopefully you guys will just be a little bit more open to it. I know there's a lot of negativity around it, a lot of resistance to it, so out there in the WordPress community, but just take some time. Maybe go watch the State of the Word from Matt from the WordCamp US. He talked a lot about that. But anyway, have a good day, guys. Just wanted this to be just kind of like an introduction to Gutenberg and some more thoughts that I'll lay down in the future and things I'll share with you as I'm going through my learning curve with it. But anyway, look forward to partnering with you guys at WP Mantis, where we do WordPress website support, white labeled, so your customers don't know that it's us. Your customers are developers. You get to be the hero. Check us out at wpmantis.com. All right, take care.